Video 1,
which is
my channel,
your channel,
stuff you don't need.
stuff you don't need.
And then
okay.
your stuff is cheap stuff. We can get to video 2 when we get there.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Stuff you don't need.
Oh, check framing.
DJI
good.
stuff.
I'm good. Good.
Good. All right. We good.
We're good.
Cool.
Like, look at it. It's like the Spider-Man meme. All right. The reason we're making this video is so that you don't have to get this stuff and waste money on it and then end up not using it and then probably selling it for less than what you paid for originally. So the first thing on my list of stuff that you shouldn't buy is definitely a gimbal. I didn't bring mine because didn't even cross my mind that we needed a gimbal.
It crossed my mind because I knew we were making this video. So this is the only reason I bought a gimbal. I have 2. I never use either of them.
That's a tiny
This
gimbal.
is a little one, which, you know, can be super handy when you like want it to be really light, but also it struggles to even fit a regular size mirrorless camera on it with a cage. So
now, why wouldn't you need a gimbal? I think it's because it's just annoying to set up and
I personally just don't like shooting on gimbals. It's like
too smooth.
It can be. Yeah, sometimes you don't need that look. We don't like. I prefer a handheld look, so I'd rather have it on a tripod or just handheld with a proper rig. Gimbals, yeah, are, like you said, annoying to set up. I'd much rather build a full-on rig than balance a gimbal and
balancing,
like,
calibrating. Also,
they
take away a lot from the footage. So if you're trying to film like something that feels like you're there and it's very immersive, having a little bit of like the camera shake, not necessarily a handshake, but you've got like that big sack, don't you?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so this thing which Remy's grabbing is his sack. It's quite large. And you can use this instead of a gimbal. It's probably more comfortable. You don't have to calibrate and balance anything. You reckon you'd much rather that
one
over a
thing?
gimbal?
Yeah, one thing I really like about that is it can make it a lot easier to shoot handheld and it make it look nice, but it keeps the organic feel of handheld. Whereas you shoot on a gimbal, everything's like too smooth. That it's like, you know, all your movements are just a bit too smooth, except when they're not and they're a bit weird and jerky. Because it's still a skill. Like to be fair, someone who can shoot really well on a gimbal, like that's still a really good skill to have. And there are obviously like situations where you do need a gimbal or a gimbal would really benefit you. Like they use Steadicams and gimbals, like larger versions of these sort of things in movies all the time. And, you know, you want that for a lot of shots. If you shoot real estate videography or something like that, you're going to want a gimbal.
More niche stuff.
Yeah.
Like
specific things like that, you definitely want a gimbal. Even like concerts and events, like sometimes gimbals can be really helpful.
I'd also like to add that a lot of modern cameras now have great stabilization.
That's true.
Awesome. Like the Lumix S5 II, it's got like 8 stops or something, and it's very, very smooth.
Yeah, Sony A7R5.
There's also
ones, really,
stabilization in post. Like you get that warp stabilization, which gives a bit of a funny jelly look, but it can, if you have it very softly applied to a footage that's already pretty stable, it's pretty unnoticeable.
If you are going to stabilize in post though, one thing you can do to make it easier is to shoot at a higher shutter speed.
Yes.
So then you won't have that weird blur of where there was a movement, but now there's not a movement anymore. So
I don't know if I have any footage I can put of times when I've accidentally had that blurring artifact, but if there is, I'll put it up.
It looks not great.
The next thing, other than gimbals, is drones. Now, obviously, again, like real estate, more specific stuff, landscape things, drones can be really good. And I have definitely used them before. I've got the DJI Mini 3 Pro here, and I bought it because I was like, yeah, drones are so cool. And they are really cool. They work really well for what they're designed to do, which is aerial. What am I looking at over here?
Oh, no, I was just pointing at the camera because it wasn't focusing on me.
Oh, anyway. I was like,
cut that out.
What is it?
Put in the part where I point, but then cut out when you react to it.
Yeah. Okay, so they're basically like a mobile tripod with an okay little lens on it that's not too fancy. You can put it any way you want. You can go high, low, any elevation, but there's a lot of restrictions in different countries. I think the US is even banning drones now.
The DJI drone specifically.
I think the coolest feature of a drone is that it can fly. That's about it. It's a camera that can fly. If you really want to do it, you could throw your camera, get some cool shots. You would lose your camera. But also FPV drones, I find that they give really, really cool looks, but it's a very specific look that you only get with that kind of recording device. And if a whole entire movie or film or whatever it is you're creating with it is shot entirely on a drone, it can just kind of feel a bit, I don't know, one-sided almost. That's not really the word I'm looking for, but having a mixture of different shots is really good. A drone can come in useful for it, but it's probably the least used thing in my whole entire thing. Have you ever used a drone?
I've never flown a drone. I think it can be, like you said, I think it can be very helpful to add in those sort of, like establishing shots and stuff like that. Especially if you're in like amazing locations that you can have these great landscapes of where you're just, flying over the top sort of thing. But
it's a bit of a chore.
If you're doing travel, it can be really good for that, except for the fact that, all the restrictions in all the different countries. So like you got to make sure you can and make sure you have a drone small enough because like size also plays a big part.
You can't fly it too close to the sky. You can't fly it too close to the ground. You can't fly it too close to people or too far away from people. You can't fly it over certain parts of the ocean. Hang on, I'm gonna get a shot of this. There's a bird on our one of our B-roll cams, and I'm gonna just put this. Oh no, I missed it. Okay, well, you guys will just have to believe us. So yeah, drones, like you could use them. They do have their use, but I never use it. I've probably used it in actual photography jobs twice out of a bunch.
Fair.
So that's not that many.
Yeah.
What's next?
Cool.
We got
next one I have. So that is really specific filters. So this is the filter case that comes with the Tilta Mirage matte box. I've got the Tilta Mirage matte box. And
it's a nice looking case though.
It is a nice case, yeah. And these like 95mm filters are great. Generally I would prefer to have 4x5, 6.5 filters, but filters like these, like this is a gold streak filter. Probably can't really see it on the shot.
See if you can see it on this camera.
I doubt it. I mean, I can hold it up in front of the camera maybe. But like these streak filters, they can be good to add that like, streak effect if you want it, but it's never going to be as good as an anamorphic lens.
He's just a cine lens.
Yeah, it's just like, why would you use this when you can use an anamorphic lens? And that same thing goes for like,
mist filters.
Mist filters, like I use mist filters.
I think it's just something that you don't really need to get. It's kind of a phase, I think. I reckon mist filters are a phase.
It's definitely like, they were really popular and they have been really popular in the last couple of years.
And everybody's having this like mist competition. I've noticed a lot of shorts. Every time you scroll, it gets more and more misty. There's more bloom.
Yeah.
They do the mist.
A bunch of lights in the background, so it just shows all the bloom everywhere, yeah.
I mean, it looks okay. It looks very smoky and foggy, which might be the look they're going for, but I reckon it's definitely not going to last too much.
It's definitely a choice. It's like if you want that look, absolutely, put a mist filter on. If it doesn't fit the style of whatever you're shooting, like maybe just don't put the mist filter on. And then if you decide that you need it later, it's usually easier enough to add it in post. So yeah. Same with like I was saying with streak filters. Obviously they're way cheaper than an anamorphic lens, but they're nowhere near as good as an anamorphic lens. That's the thing.
What's something else that you don't need?
Oh yeah, really like niche focal lengths of the lenses. So, a 600 or like a 10.
6mm.
So 6mm, like.
Again, they have their uses, but they're not. They're
if you're not like a wildlife or sports photographer, videographer, you don't need a 600.
We're also, by the way, just saying this for like general stuff. If you want gear that does a lot of stuff, getting a 600mm lens or a 6mm lens or like a crazy blue streak filter, you'll probably use it once or twice. And spending a bunch of money on expensive gear that you use once or twice, which I've also done and I regret it, it's not really worth it. You can use that money towards stuff that you will use, like good lenses.
Yeah. Lenses are definitely one thing to invest in, and it's like you spend money, spend money on lenses. And if you have a use for even like something like your 85 just there, do you want to grab that?
Yeah.
Like 85 1.2.
Like this is a very niche lens, but having the 1.2 means you can shoot in any lighting scenario. And you'd probably think, oh, but if you shoot at 1.2 in the daytime, you're going to be overexposed. My Z8, which I'm recording on over here, can do 1/32,000th of a second shutter speed, which is enough to cancel out the f1.2 and not need an ND filter. So this is very, very handy to have in your kit for varying lighting scenarios. But then on the other hand, it doesn't zoom, and having a zoom lens like a 24-70 or a 70-200, which we're filming on. What lens have you got on the FX30?
That is the Sigma's 24-70.
24-70 again. So 24-70s, 70-200s, they're very sort of bread and butter lenses. You can do everything with them, and investing your money instead of in mist filters and crazy focal lengths that you might use once or twice, unless that is your niche. Getting more general purpose lenses are going to last you a lot longer and give you more versatility.
If you do have a niche, or even if you prefer to shoot like super wide, like if you shoot music videos or something, you want to shoot 11mm, 9mm or whatever, do that. Like if it makes sense for what you do, absolutely get that niche stuff.
For example, macro lens.
Yeah.
I bought this because I was like, yeah, I'm going to shoot lots of macro photography. I did a little bit when I started just for fun to learn it. And that was basically all I did. The only time I use this, which I said in a previous video, is for like ring detail photos, which you can actually get pretty close with a lot of other focal lengths anyway. This is the 50mm, which again is like a nifty 50, which everyone says is a really good lens. When you have two cameras, a 50mm kind of can become obsolete, but definitely having a dedicated macro lens just for a couple shots is expensive, just for a couple shots. Do you have anything any other things you sort of just wish you never got that you don't really need to get? By the way, if you guys can think of anything, just pop them in the comments.
Yeah, what are some other things that...
Because I'm sure you guys have experience with things that we haven't, that you might not need.
Yeah,
and you could even tell us what we shouldn't get.
Yeah, yeah. Not necessarily things that we regret buying, but things that we just...
You shouldn't need.
Yeah, you just don't need,
What
which is really
what
handy.
Tripods? Like, I reckon... Because we've got 3 very different types of tripods here, but they're all useful.
They are, yeah. Like, they have their different uses. Yeah, this tripod... Video tripod.
I wouldn't get this tripod because it's a bit ridiculous for me, but I need a tripod just for content creation so I could get pretty much anything that holds my camera.
Exactly.
Whereas you do more video, so this is something that you need.
Yeah, if you're a photographer, you don't need a fluid head.
Yeah.
If you're a videographer or a cinematographer or do mostly video, you probably should get a fluid head and not one that just, a ball head where you loosen it once and it just goes all over the place.
Like my one over here.
Or like a pan tilt one where you do the pan and tilt separately with different locks. It's like,
just go straight for the tripod that you need to do the job you need to do.
Yeah.
Don't worry about getting all the other random
stuff. I had another idea, and that's something that we're actually using on this camera. That's a matte box.
Ooh.
You don't need a matte box unless you need a matte box.
What? Okay, yeah. So
if you're a photographer, you don't need a matte box.
I'm not too familiar with matte boxes. Like, I know what they do. They stop like the light leaking from the side.
Matte boxes have 2 main purposes. Yeah. So on this one, you just got the flag on the top, and it has that out to the side, and it's going to stop flares from hitting the glass, or stop the light hitting the glass of your lens or your filters that you got in there to stop those unwanted flares. That's the same thing that lens hoods do.
Yeah.
Basically to the same degree depending on the lens hood, but you don't need a matte box generally for that reason. Most of the time you would actually need a matte box is if you need to add multiple filters or a way to easily change filters.
Slide in, slide
so you
out
can
filters.
have like the 4x5. Actually, I have one here. Let me grab it. So most proper cinema level matte boxes will take these sort of filters. So this is a 4x5.65 inch.
And I would never buy those.
Filter.
That's something that you wouldn't need as a photographer.
You definitely don't need one of these as a photographer.
Unless maybe doing landscape.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Like this is a mist filter, but this will just go into the front of this matte box here.
That looks like a nice mist filter.
It's a black mist. I also have a white mist. That's just from Tilta. And then same thing with these ones. These ones will slide into the top of the matte box. So you can easily change them and also generally stack multiple on top of each other. So one thing that, matte boxes can be really helpful for is you get solid ND of these. So you get like a 1-stop, a 2-stop, a 3-stop sort of thing. And you can change out depending on your ND rather than using a variable ND because variables have their own issues. And that's, right now it's not a big issue using the variable on this, but if you have things with reflections, variable NDs aren't great because they're also polarizers. So if you need a matte box, absolutely get a matte box. But there's a good chance you maybe don't need a matte box.
You don't need a matte box. I think that's. I don't think there's anything else really.
Yeah, I think that's all I can think of right now.
I cannot think of anything else.
Let us know in the comments what other things you don't need or you only need if you're very specific sort of. In the end, just
get the good general purpose stuff. Good quality general purpose stuff is better than stuff that's not good quality, more niche stuff.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Remy's got a video part 2, which we're going to be talking about stuff to avoid buying that's cheaper that you could definitely need, but it's probably going to be more expensive and way more worth your while. So if you want to go check out that video, that is again linked. Hopefully by now I've figured out how to add a link wherever Remy's pointing, and you can go and click on that and you'll see his channel as well as the video, which we're going to start recording right now.
Okay, bye.
After we stop.